All right, and we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows, and if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, it is sincerely appreciated. Plus, don't forget, LakerHolics.com, the best place to go for conversations today on the Los Angeles Lakers is LakerHolics.com. And always, the best in basketball podcasts are always available to you at hoopheadspod.com as part of the Hoopheads Podcast Network. Well, wouldn't you know, their time away from Staples Center, the Lakers at least are off to a good note as they go in Game 3 of this road trip. When, you talk about Game 1, played very well in Sacramento. Game 2, they stunk it up on Easter Sunday, but they came back strong today. They came back fighting hard because, yes, they did get in a fight, started going, things were getting a little rough, the pushing, the shoving, whatnot. And we'll go into that as far as the ejection is concerned, whether it was just or not, because actually it wasn't. But you know what? That doesn't deter from what happened in today's game. The Lakers had a sensational first half, and they were up by as many as 32 points in the game, and they just cruised. They actually in the second half kind of turned it off, but you know what? They were too far out in front, and they end up winning 110-101 over the Tampa Raptors. And here today to talk about the game are three great guests indeed. First up, he returns to us after a long hiatus. He's been cruising the clubs in Toronto. And you knew we couldn't have a game against Toronto and a post-game recap without him because he's the man in Toronto indeed. It is the man behind all the great stuff that he's talking about at LakerHolics.com. It is our historian. It is Sean Grice, a.k.a. the Magic Man. And Magic Man, you got to be pleased with today's performance, but I know there's also some things that you want to get off your chest today as well.
Oh, well, thank you for allowing me to have the conch, Gerald. And a belated happy Easter to you three gentlemen.
I'm not calling you Piggy, though. I'm not calling you Piggy. No, with that Lord of the Flies, if anybody does that, that's like dead meat for you out there. So no.
No, thank you, Gerald. But it is a great book, though. It teaches.
It is, yes.
A great lesson.
And the first film, the black and white film, I think that was really cool. They tried to do a remake of it, and that stunk the joint up. But yes, the first film was really, it captured that creepiness of the book. But get on, to the game in hand. But like I said, you got to be pleased with that first half performance from the Lakers.
Absolutely pleased, Gerald. And as we speak, everybody I know in Toronto has just turned their phone off because they don't want to hear from Laker fans right now. It is dead silence right now in the 416. A great win. It wasn't that tricky, 20, 25-point lead that can kind of slip away from you. The old snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, so to speak.
Well, the offensive issues, they reared their ugly head in that second half.
Oh, they did. But, I mean, we managed to get out to that 30-point lead. The three-point shooting was excellent in the first half. It was unfortunate that Trezz was ejected, but I think that was a blessing in disguise because it really rallied the guys. I mean, we were already up at that point, but they decided to just kick the intensity up a notch. And it went from 25 to 35, and I was pleased with the effort in the first half. And the defense wasn't half bad in the second half. I mean, the offense struggled too, but the defense really showed up tonight.
Yes, it did. It really did. But I know before we go into the game itself and the Trezz ejection and Marc Gasol being plan C or plan D in his recent comments, I know we want to cover that. Plus, we've got a new addition to the team that might make LakerTom happy. I want to go ahead and talk to you, Magic Man, because you got the floor. I want you to go ahead and get this all off your chest because this is like a week for you since you've been off, and you've got like a week to go ahead and expound on it. So Jamie and I said, you know what, we need to give him the floor. So go ahead, my friend. There's actually not one but two things with LeBron and now turn to action tonight for the Brooklyn Nets. Two issues you want to go ahead and cover on both these guys. So go ahead, man. The floor is yours, man. You get to go ahead and LakerTom expunge away. The floor is yours, man.
Cool, man. Well, I just wanted to say, I have a friend. He's a orthopedic surgeon at a hospital here in the Six, and he's a New York transplant, so he happens to be a big Giants and Knicks fan. And he was texting me tonight that he said, and I'm looking at the phone here. He said, "Hey, man, LeBron looks like Saquon did 2 weeks before he came back from his high ankle sprain." So, for context, in 2019, Saquon Barkley suffered a horrible high ankle sprain against the Tampa Bay Bucks. He was tackled awkwardly. He screamed out in pain like LeBron. You could hear it if Lakers fans want to rewatch something like that. But he came back in 3 weeks. He was in a boot, and he came back in 3 weeks. And this orthopedic surgeon said, "I'm looking at LeBron. His lower body looks really comfortable. Yeah, he's stiff and he's limping a little bit, but his hips look solid. His lower body looks like he's comfortable, and he was moving quite comfortably, Gerald. I mean, it wasn't like an awkward movement at all. You didn't see him grimacing. He wasn't showing any ill effects. I mean, the one big thing about the high ankle sprain, remember, is usually the pain threshold. I mean, I was trying to tell LakerTom as I was talking to him the other day on FaceTime that when I had my high ankle sprain, it was very similar to what happened to him. It was a torsion, twisting motion. And after about 14 days, the pain subsided and I felt a lot better. And I was able to move. Now, I wasn't walking like my normal gait, but after about 3 weeks, I was back to normal. So it looks like LeBron's on schedule, man. I would expect him back in about 2 weeks. I mean, who knows? He could be out of that boot by the weekend, and maybe they're talking about him playing against the Celtics on the 15th. I think that would be an interesting twist to fate if we could get LeBron back with the fans. And who knows? There are rumors we might put up the banner. So I've heard that chatter too. I'm not sure if there's any truth to it, but as far as Ben McLemore goes, I think that's a huge pickup.
Hold
like
on.
that
Hold on. We'll
move.
get into Ben McLemore here in a little bit, but you said you wanted to talk real quickly about KD and Michael Rappaport. They had a back and forth, which I don't know. It was not supposed to go out to the public because there was a lot of abusive and misogynistic chatter, I guess, between both of the individuals that were really demeaning towards women. And obviously that is not tolerated at all. That's, and we certainly don't condone that here at the Lakers Fast Break. And I know the NBA did fine KD $50,000. Of course, they couldn't find Michael Rappaport, but I want to hear your thoughts. Jamie's laughing as I say that, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. So we want to go ahead quickly into it because, again, I'm giving you the floor. You're catching up with us all at speed. So before we get into detail with the game with Jamie and LakerTom and also Ben McLemore, I want to hear your thoughts on this. And because you said you were really disturbed by all this that was going on.
I was, man. I was really disappointed. I mean, let's be honest. Raise your hand if you haven't been to the point of anger where you said something you didn't mean later. Yeah. I mean, who are we to cast stones? But I mean, I was very disappointed that Kevin basically, it was a non-apology. That's all I could say about it. He wasn't apologetic about what he said or how he said it. He was upset that it leaked to the public. And look, some of these athletes do have private conversations, and 99.9% of them never get out to the public. because people just enjoy the interaction person to person, or at least that's what the point of Twitter and social media is. But sometimes you run into trolls of all kinds, and unfortunately, Michael Rappaport is a troll at this point. Um, no, he doesn't want anyone to really talk about the fact that he's just lost his defamation suit against Barstool Sports. Um, he doesn't get many acting roles. The stuff I've seen him in, he's been terrible. Like, you're more of an expert than me, Gerald, but it just seems like he's just trying to get that last
He's hanging on.
little
He's hanging on.
his last drop in Hollywood, and he's trying to also portray Kevin as a bad guy here. And all I can say is, as someone who's older than he is at this point, look, we all say things we don't mean. I don't think Kevin Durant is homophobic. I don't think he's transphobic. I don't think there's a prejudice bone in his body. I think he comes from a culture that's maybe different from the one you came from, Gerald, and me and Tom. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think he meant what he said. It was in anger, and we all say things in anger we don't mean, and I don't want him to be portrayed as a villain here, because he's really not a bad person. He isn't. I've been to a few games at the ACC where he's interacted with fans of all types: gay, straight, man, woman, black, brown, white. It didn't matter. And I haven't been to any Nets games, but I'm imagining he's the same way he is as he was in Golden State and in OKC. And I think we're getting too caught in the cancel culture at this point, and I think we need to pump the brakes.
Well, I'm going to go hit back on you because he does have a history of social media going back against people who, and just not turning off the chatter, so to speak. I think sometimes when you're at that level, you just need to turn off the chatter from what people say. But he does get a little bit sensitive to what people say. Remember, he has those burner accounts that he was famous for. I mean, and I just when you're his stature and his greatness and his level of play that he can give to you, which again at one time I'm going to say right now he was the best player in the world. That finals where he outdid LeBron. He was for a brief time the best player on the planet, and I won't nobody can dissuade me from that. He's not right now. He's just getting back into the lineup and whatnot. But again, those comments that he made, to go, it doesn't matter how mad you get. There's still comments that you made. They came from you, so they must have come from some part of you. So I'm hoping that he will that he'll learn from this and he'll grow from this, and that the NBA will work with him to try and become a better person going forward. But again, there's no room for any hate speech of that nature. And I'm hopeful that he will find a bit of clarity going forward and he'll become a better person from something that happened like this. But
and for the record, unfortunately, I mean, almost 10 years ago to the day, it'll be April 13, 2011, Kobe Bryant was fined $100,000 for making a homophobic slur himself. And I'll say this. Kobe used that word in the context of what a lot of people sitting in their living room would say to somebody who they think is acting foolishly or inappropriately. And again, it was used in the wrong context. I believe he apologized for it. If I'm not mistaken, he did.
He did.
He was regretful. Yeah, he was regretful about it. So he was fined twice as much as Myers Leonard, who made an anti-Semitic slur, and now KD, who's made these homophobic and misogynistic comments.
Yeah, there's no even barometer. If you're looking for an even barometer, it's not going to happen. But again, that's something the NBA has to go ahead and check itself on. But I know LakerTom wants to say something. Hold on, LakerTom. We'll get to you in a sec. Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. The Lakers did win 110-101. And Jamie, I know he can't wait, Jamie, so I'm going to have to go ahead and put him on. He is the mastermind of Lakerholics.com. It is LakerTom. So go ahead, LakerTom. Before we get into the win, I know you want to go ahead and just say something in context what we're talking about with the KD Michael Rappaport thing, what Sean just talked about right now.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's because I'm in a combative mood, as Mrs. LakerTom accused me of today, but
thanks for showing up on the podcast today. I'm checking on it. No, I'm kidding.
But this is one of the issues that really irritates me. And I have to say that all of these people who complain about cancel culture really are complaining about everybody having a conscience for a change. And I happen to believe that, for example, 10 years ago is not the day. And Kevin Durant should have learned a lot in the last 10 years that I'm sure Kobe Bryant learned. And we've all, just like Sean said, we've all said various things at various times. I grew up in an atmosphere in southern Wisconsin where I never even met a gay person until I moved to California. And I can remember comments that young kids would make and so forth at that point in time. But one of the things that I think is one of the turning points in our society is that we are seeing people all of a sudden taking interest in social justice, in LGBT, just basically in everybody being allowed to be themselves and being respected for what they are, what they believe, and not being turned into enemies, if you will, for those things. So I think that it's really important, and I'm happy to see Major League Baseball take a stand. I'm happy to see Coca-Cola take a stand. I'm happy to see Delta Airlines take a stand. I'm happy to see all of these companies show some conscience rather than just chasing the raw dollar. And as far as I'm concerned, cancel culture is like fake news. It's just nothing more than a verbal token being put on by people who want to hang on to a racist America where the only people that counted were straight white men. And I'll leave it at that.
We can be better, and we should be better as a culture and as a species towards each other. And this is my hope for my children and future generations going forward. Jamie, you want to go ahead and chime in? Because we're off the rails already on this episode.
Well, I'd like to. Thanks for having me on the Wednesday show. I'm really glad to be here.
We're recording on Tuesday, just to let everybody know.
No, I know. I kid. I mean, I think that I think there are valid points on both sides, right? Like you can't. When there is, I agree with Tom on the surface that the phrase cancel culture is akin to the phrase fake news, but in all things there is a kernel of truth, right? Like these things aren't just born out of like the mists of time and thrown into the ether. Like, there's the Kobe Bryant example is a perfect one. Kobe Bryant was given a chance to learn, and Kevin Durant, I would argue, has been given a chance to learn that he is not taken advantage of. The burner accounts, the fact that he was playing in the league when Kobe got fined. This is for Kevin Durant playing on a team with Steph Curry, who's incredibly open-minded and supportive of alternative lifestyles, for lack of a better word. I mean, let's just call all of it an alternative lifestyle, right? Like how you live is not how I live, it's not how he lives, it's not how she lives, it's not how they live, it's not how we live. Everybody lives their life. And what cancel culture, I think, is alluding to, that I agree with the phrase, is the idea that you can't just like legislate or socially berate bad behavior out of society. You have to, at some point, engage the bad behavior on its level and try to raise it up. We only float as low as the water is, right? We're only going to float as high as the lowest point in the water. So if the water's low, the boat's going to be low too. It doesn't matter how many people want the boat to go up. You got to raise the water before the boat can float on the high seas. So I think that if once somebody has been given multiple chances to learn something, that's when they should be, cast out from the the halls of splendor. Like Louis C.K. is a good example. Like, would anybody here say that Louis C.K. deserves to never be a stand-up comedian again, or that perhaps there's some pathway to which people can learn a lesson where they didn't really necessarily know at the time how terrible their behavior was? And I certainly don't know the answer to this. I'm not trying to put myself forward as like a judge of men. I feel that there does have to be a mechanism or the space in which a lesson can be learned. And I think that goes for a lot of things. I think that goes for this Laker team. I think that goes for, Michael Rappaport, who I don't find to be interesting in any way, shape, or form. If he were to decide to join one of the manned missions to Mars and leave Earth, I probably would not even realize he was gone. Like all of these things. But does that also mean that there isn't space on planet Earth for Michael Rappaport? Of course there is. It's a big planet, and we should all look at within ourselves to find the bigger heart that we have and not the smaller heart. Having said that, when somebody has proved inconclusively that they're not learning a lesson, that they're doomed to repeat their mistakes over and over and over, like an alcoholic or a drug addict or a bigot or a racist. Not all of them, but a lot of them at this point. Yeah, I mean, it gets to the point. There's been a lot of interesting documentaries, and there was, on the circus, there was a really interesting episode where it was like there was a lawyer who was like, this kid's life is going to be destroyed because he took part. Like he got this mob mentality during the Capitol riots. And like this kid's like 18, like he just turned 18, and now he's like facing like federal prosecution charges for being, essentially for being a terrorist. And do I think this kid is an idiot for being there at the Capitol? Yes, 100%. But like at the same time, there must be a mechanism, and this is what jail is for. This is why I don't like it when early sentences are given out to. This is one of my issues with the criminal justice. Light sentencing is far more lenient than sentencing of people of color and things of that nature. And so it's so hard to find true justice in this world because humans are so flawed, and so as long as we are flawed, which will be for forever, then there will always be these moments in our society where, the people who have been wronged or who are feeling pain or experiencing injustice will look to the people who are not and see a chasm. And it's how do we bridge that chasm in a way that isn't just like, well, now we're doing this, because that doesn't work. That doesn't bring people with you. That does the opposite and kind of leaves some people behind. And now you've created a different chasm. And so, there, in some ways, I have a life philosophy that I adhere to and will probably adhere to the day I die, which is there is no winning in life. In sport, there's winning. That's why we like it. It ends, somebody won, and that's exciting for us because in life, there is no winning. You get to wake up and do it again tomorrow. That's the best it gets. And so hopefully you had a good day and you get another good day tomorrow. But if you don't, you got to push through. You got to push through and soldier on and find a way. So I don't really think KD has learned his lesson. So I have lost a lot of respect for KD in this moment. It's always funny to me when somebody says something like, oh, well, that wasn't supposed to be out in public. But that doesn't change the fact that you still think and said it and feel that way. That doesn't change who you are. The fact that I heard it, if Kevin Durant tweets racist or homophobic and transphobic tweets in the woods and nobody's around, did he still do it? Yes, he did. The tree fell. Like all of these things are true. So, I really could give two ducks about Michael Rappaport. He's a two quacker for me. Quack quack and.
Well, okay, and again, this is the Lakers podcast. No worries, we're all going off on a tangent. This podcast has gone totally off the rails.
No, but
we hope you're enjoying us. Go ahead, Sean, real quick, because we want to get back to all the game stuff. So I'm sure that's what most of the listeners want to talk about. But go ahead, my friend.
No, absolutely, Gerald. And just to sum it up, I thought Jamie ended it well. I mean, once you cross that line, you cross that line. There's no delineation of you cross 10 feet over the line, 20 feet over the line. Once you cross the red line, you cross it.
Let's try being better to ourselves and each other each and every day. And if we can, I think that makes a little bit better world for all of us.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Be excellent to one another.
Yeah, but you keep turning your cheek. You keep turning your cheek and ignoring the rhetoric that's coming out of the other side.
Can't do it.
And that rhetoric is setting a new standard that is allowing people like Kevin Durant to think that he can speak out the way he can. That a cop can lean on a guy for 9 minutes.
Well, as long as they keep on just
all of these
hand-slapping
various
him
things
as far as
are
that's
enabled.
concerned.
Right.
The 50,000 is just pocket change for him. I mean, that's
That's a
something
joke.
he might spend at a dinner on a Monday night. So we
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
the
that.
anguish you'll get from being tortured on Twitter. That's hopefully the best that we can do for him.
Totally.
So back on the farm.
Yeah. Well, again, back on the farm, indeed. Once again, it is for the fifth time the Lakers Fast Break podcast. We truly appreciate it. The Lakers, once again, they win 110-101 over the Toronto/Tampa Raptors.
Single digit win.
Well, again, it was very nice. They pulled out to that lead. LakerTom, I would talk to you first about this. And well, actually, I think I spoke a way long time ago. I think I spoke to MagicMan about this, but long time ago I did. But now I'm going to talk to you, LakerTom. You've got to be pleased with what you saw in that first half from what we saw with the Los Angeles Lakers.
I was happy to see him shoot 43s.
Yeah.
I was happy to see him sign a 3-point volume shooter.
Well, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Okay. What about the game? The game is the same as we thought it was going to be. I predicted before the game that this would be a blowout for the Lakers. And the reason is very simple, because they met an opponent that didn't intimidate them. But the minute they get an opponent who intimidates them, they fall apart and they can't deliver. And that's the big problem of the supporting cast that we've put around LeBron and AD. They just do not have the confidence or ability or skill sets to overcome other superstars. And we're going to see that trend over the next 3 or 4 games. When we have a tough matchup and the other team's got a superstar, these guys can't cut it. If we play the Kings or a depleted Raptors team in what used to be, I'm not afraid anymore of Admiral Akbar. Admiral Akbar is obsolete at this point in time, because this team loves the trap games, because a trap game means
season,
they got a chance, and as long as they got a chance, they got a pulse. The problem is when they don't have a chance, when they play the Nets, they play the Jazz, they play a tough team that has superstars, then they don't have a pulse. Then they choke, and you'll see it in the way it starts. Is the first few minutes of each one of those games. We've seen that same pattern over and over all year long, even at times with LeBron and AD. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it's a serious problem.
Well, right now, let's just enjoy the win. Just enjoying the win. Jamie, your thoughts on that first half? The second half, again, they took their foot off the pedal, and obviously they didn't sustain it. But again, they were still so far out in front. It's great to see a team that I had no idea would actually or could generate enough offense to be 33 points up, but they managed to do so in that first half. What was really the factor for you in that first half, and why they were so successful?
I thought they were doing a great job moving the ball. I thought they were playing with energy. I think that those two things are what are this team. I mean, it's not that LakerTom is wrong. It's just that you can't just gloss over the fact that you are missing 2 superstars. There's 40 some odd points. I think that's 47 points that are out of the lineup. Double-digit rebounds, double-digit assists. Up to probably almost 5 steals and blocks combined. All of these things. The salary of the 2 players, they've taken up all of our cap. So the fact that all of that resource is unavailable can't just be like, and these other guys are terrible. These other guys were never assembled to lead a team without LeBron and AD. It just was that a bad choice or that will be debated at the end of the season. I thought it was a bad choice. I thought one of the strengths of last season's team was that all of the role players had NBA finals, if not tremendous amounts of playoff experience, or had been upper echelon NBA talents in their respective fields. Sure, Dwight Howard hadn't had a lot of playoff success, but he was all NBA defense and defensive player of the year. Rondo, NBA finals, won. Bradley, gone to the play. All of these things matter. And so when we switched from a defense high IQ team to an offensive, you got to prove it in the league still team, this is, I think, kind of what you're going to get. So I won't be surprised if all of these guys aren't here next summer. That's a discussion for later. In this win, I thought this was maybe Marc Gasol's best or second best game as a Laker. He came out
not too bad for a plan C or a plan D.
Definitely not. No, I thought Mark tonight was the first game I thought that Marc Gasol showed up saying, I want to be the starter. Not, oh, woe is me, what happened to my life, but I should be the starter. And if he had been playing like this all year, nobody would be talking. We might not have even gotten Dre. You know what I mean? But he didn't play like this all year, so that's on him. That's one of the things that he could have controlled, right? He could have come out with a lot more fire. Granted, he caught COVID. But that's what the league is. That's how the league is this year. So you can't really use that as
COVID. We were happy.
And even before, exactly before he caught COVID, he was very disappointed. So. It's one of those things where it's like you guys all could have done, Caruso tonight. I was like, where has this Caruso been for the last month and a half? Same with even THT. I thought, when THT plays under control, it's just a joy to watch, and he makes a huge impact on the game, a huge positive impact. So those are the things that I took away from this game is that the effort guys always need to bring the effort, because if you're not playing with the effort, you're not bringing your best attribute. Caruso's best attribute isn't shooting threes. His best attribute isn't he got a great handle. It's that he plays at 110% every possession, all possession long, especially on defense. And then the rest of it falls into place where it should. If you were to tell me the Lakers were going to be so big up in a game that Kyle Kuzma shot 3 for 13, 2 for 11 from 3 without LeBron and AD, I would tell you were crazy. That there's no way it could happen. The fact that it did happen, even against a team as undermanned and outgunned as the Raptors were tonight, I think is something these guys can hopefully try to build off of. I don't think this changes any of my predictions for the amount of games they'll win on this road trip, but I don't necessarily – all I need to see at this point, we're about 3.5, almost about 3 to 4 weeks before the end of the season. If that 2-week timetable for LeBron holds up, that means he would come back before the Dallas series. Which would be incredible and great for the NBA.
And we're only 2 games up on them in the loss column.
Right. Oh, no, that's kind of if you're going to come back and try to save what seeding we have, that is the last possible chance. Because if we drop 2 in a row to the Mavericks, we're going to be buried in the standings at that point. And there won't be any hope of pulling ourselves out because there'll just be too few games to do it. So
get ready for a LeBron Curry play-in game.
Oh man, I don't want to see that. I do, but I do as a basketball enjoyer of basketball, but not as a Laker fan. But I digress.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sean has been twirling his mustache.
I know, I love this. I love this
villainous mustache, and basking, coming up with a master plan here. I know you had something to say, Sean, so go ahead, my friend, quickly, because we're going to go ahead and touch on Trezz here next.
Right, Gerald. So I'm going with a prediction here. I'm going wild prediction. I believe Nikola Jokic will win the MVP. I think the Nuggets stay. I think the Nuggets stay in the 4th seed. And looking at the schedule, I was really pessimistic. Laker fans, I sent these guys an email being very pessimistic about their chances. I actually think we backslide into the 5th seed, eliminate the Nuggets in 7 games in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
I think the Nuggets, who are really on a roll right now, I think they're going to sneak up a little bit higher personally. I think they're playing very well. With that lineup with Aaron Gordon, that they proved me wrong so far. Aaron Gordon, I was kind of down on that trade. I was on one of the naysayers of that trade, but they proved me wrong because they've been incredible with that lineup. Their plus minus is outstanding.
I think if you're the Clippers and Suns at this point, you're looking at being the 2 and the 3 seed because you really don't want to see the Lakers. And if the Lakers backslide into that 5th or 6th slot and you get bracketed with them, that's very remember, Gerald, as the historian on the panel. The oddity, if there's going to be an oddity this year of seedings, it's going to be this year. The Rockets did it. Celtics did it. So if somebody's going to do it this year, it's going to be the Lakers.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm very still optimistic regarding the Los Angeles Lakers, and we'll see what happens with them going forward. They've already won Jamie's allotment of one game during the rest of this road trip that he had already predicted. They're still halfway through on mine because I predicted 2, but LakerTom predicted 3 that they would win out of the next 5 games. No, you said 4. You said 3. You said 3.
I said 4 of the 7 games. 4 and 3 for the road trip.
No, but I said our question was on Sunday, how much do you think they would win?
Yeah, I still think they'll win 3.
Okay, so that would make it 4. Okay. Anyways, okay, you've already shaken my head all the time. But anyways, I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, on this, and that is the Trezz, Montrezl Harrell, who 2 minutes in, and now get this, it was a breakaway foul where it was when OG Anunoby put up the shot. Dennis Schroeder came up from behind, tried to wrap him up. You've seen this before. Tried to wrap him up, and unfortunately didn't quite do it well enough. And then it got to the point where they got it crossed up and whatnot. And Schroeder was just trying to hold him and say, you know what, don't want to hurt you, don't want to hurt you or anything like that. And for some reason, OG took it the wrong way and gave a violent, tried to throw Dennis Schroeder in the second row. Yeah, he tried to flip him into the second row, basically. And then Montrezl Harrell came in the middle of the kerfuffle that always happens where everybody pushes and shoves, gives one slight push from behind. Okay, maybe I won't say slight, but one push from behind, then just tries to be a peacemaker, and he's thrown out of the game. Your thoughts on this? Because I thought it was totally unwarranted. Throw some techs out. That would be great, but nobody should have been ejected for that. I mean, maybe
we see that happen. I don't know. I differ. You lose your cool like that, and you go in and be the first guy who instigates a fight after there's an incident. You're going to get thrown. They don't like to unbalance the game. Refs don't want to affect the game. And
they didn't affect the game.
He came in aggressively and pushed.
Yeah,
it's funny. I saw the play differently than everybody else. I guess I saw that Dennis actually made a pretty good attempt at blocking that shot, and then he tried to catch him and not let him fall.
Yeah,
and then Anunoby decided, well, I'm going to body slam this sucker for doing that.
Because he kept holding on to OG Anunoby, and I think that's what OG
he was just trying not to let him fall down.
Yeah.
And then Trezz came in and did what's always going to get you kicked out of a game, man. It's always it's the second guy who punches somebody in a fight, and it's the first guy who comes in to intercede in a conflict that always gets tagged for that.
Got pushed. He did one push from behind, and that was it. Then he just
one push like that is all you need.
All you need, I guess, in today's NBA. But Jamie, did you have any thoughts on Montrezl Harrell? Do you think it was justified?
It's so funny. I don't know. I mean, those are moments that somebody's going to get thrown, right? Like once the benches kind of are all like, once you have a bench clearing ball in the NBA, it's a bona fide guarantee 2 players.
I would have given guys a flagrant, but I wouldn't have thrown them out.
I think at that point, there's just
they always throw 2 guys out.
It's like all right. Maybe not always, but like 90% of the time. I just want to say one thing, and then okay, hold on, one second. All right, the only thing I want to say is what I liked about that play is that for all the talk of like what Lakers going to get what payday, and these guys aren't going to be on the team anymore, and all that sort of stuff, to see this group of guys standing up for one another like that is something that there were a lot of positives to take away from this game. I know it was against a bottom. We beat up on a catfish, and that's fine. We should have beat up on the cat. We should have beat up on the catfish. The catfish is a slow-moving fish at the bottom of the river, and we got it, and we should have. And had we not, that would have been terrible. But to see Trezz standing up for Schroeder, 2 guys who probably won't be teammates next season. Let's be honest.
2 guys who won't be on the Lakers.
And 2 guys who have a very good chance of not being on the Lakers at this point. To see them be there for one another, see the team come around, all that, and it fired the team up. Those are the things that this team needs. This team needed something like this. Now, yes, the momentum sputtered in the second half. Toronto played a little bit better, I thought, in the second half as well. Our defense, I didn't think was
70% from 3.
We didn't shoot 70% from 3 in the second half. all of those things contributed to the lead slipping, but we didn't lose. I mean, it really didn't get under double digits until the last minute or so of garbage time. It was a double digit, near wire to wire lead. I don't know that if they'd have been under 2-0 at one point or whatever, but for the most part, a wire to wire win. And so that's what I thought was good about it. Now, I never like to see guys fighting. I'm always like, come on, guys. Yeah. You're all millionaires. We know there's not going to be any punches thrown. We know you're all going to go hang out at the club.
Did any Lakers leave the bench?
No. But they all stood up and they kind of congregated around the back near that whole bench leaving rule has been more lax in the last few years. I feel like they don't mind if guys, because remember it used to be the assistant coaches would form a wall to keep anybody from setting 1 inch on the court, and they don't do that anymore. You'll see one guy.
If the players left, then they'd have to call the game.
Right. Well, yeah, especially for Toronto. Anyway, Magic Man called timeout. Timeout, Magic Man.
Go ahead, Magic Man.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Tom said 2 guys always get thrown out. LakerTom, I seem to remember a matinee game between the LA Lakers and New York Knicks in which one Chris Childs decided to put 5 across Kobe Bryant's chops. And I seem to only remember Chris Childs being ejected because if I'm not mistaken, Kobe roasted the Knicks after that.
Well,
I think.
You notice they rarely throw out LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, players like that. There's a double standard to getting ejected out of the game in those situations.
Right. Didn't Chris Paul, when Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo got into it a couple years back when Rondo was a Laker before, LeBron's first season, right? Didn't they throw Rondo out, but not CP3? Didn't CP3 finish the game? Yeah. And he was essentially the instigator with all of his forearm shivers to Rondo the whole game. Like I'm better than you, Rondo. I'm better than you. You might not be. You might not be their point guard.
Again, there's going to be some fines going away. Hopefully the league will go ahead and rescind a couple of those technicals, especially for Montrezl Harrell, because I think he deserved one, but I don't think he deserved to be kicked out. But that's beside the point. The Lakers did go ahead and use that as a continuance of their fighting spirit through the rest of the first half, and they played extremely well. But it was a good day around for the Lakers even before the game because they signed Ben McLemore, who was recently waived by the Houston Rockets. And if you're familiar with Ben McLemore, he was drafted by the Kings, top 10 pick, has been, was it kind of a disappointment for them, even though he is a guy that's, 6'5", I think, on the wing, loves to shoot the three-pointer, was, last year under Mike D'Antoni, he was revived from the dead, basically, because he had a great season, 10 points a game, 40% shooting, so from the three-point area, which are the kind of numbers you need. But this is something that I think LakerTom likes. In fact, that he was looking for a wing that could shoot and loves to shoot a lot from behind the arc, and who can get hot behind the arc if given the chance. He's not been given much of a chance this year because Houston's been going in a different direction. So the necessity in him being waived was there, apparently, because, again, he was riding the end of their bench because he really wasn't getting the opportunity because he's one of those veterans that they already seen those days are come and gone for him for the Houston Rockets. But I think he still can do something for the Lakers. Don't you, LakerTom?
Yeah, I really like the move. I think it's like the first positive sign that I've seen since we fired Byron Scott that the Lakers actually do like three-point shooting. I've said we've been haunted by the ghost of Byron Scott for years.
There was those 2 awful trades in theory. They got what's the guy from New York that's now in New York, back in New York? Reggie Bullock. And then also Mike Muscala, who were supposed three-point sharpshooters who have been three-point
sharpshooters. Troy Daniels. We drafted Mo Wagner. Yeah, all of these guys were supposed to be the renaissance.
None of them were guys who take 7, 8, 9 3-point shots per game all the time. And what we've seen in the Lakers is we got 2 guys shooting close to 40% in Alex Caruso and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and both of them essentially refuse to shoot threes most games because they don't want to go below 40%. They're hanging on, hoping to make it to the end of the year with a 40% year of shooting 3-point shots.
But
so
with
they
McLemore, that's not the problem.
turn down shots left and right. And the one thing about McLemore, per 36 minutes, he takes 10 threes per game. So he's not going to hesitate to fire the ball and let it fly when he has an open shot. And we need volume 3-point shooters. It's an illusion to think that you can shoot 43s per game with this crew and have anything close to a reasonable percentage, because the game doesn't work that way. You have to take the threes to make them. And you need guys who are used to shooting volume 3-point shots. It's the biggest reason why I was really disappointed that we didn't go through with the Kyle Lowry trade. He's 7.7 threes per game at 38%, and we need guys like that. You see that ball passing around there, around the horn in our games, and it's almost always somebody who has a good shot who passes it on. So this was a good move. This is a good recognition by the front office at last that what we need right now is not more rim protection. What we need right now is not a wing defender. What we need right now is a guy who's willing and able to make threes and to make a high volume of them. We can't go into the playoffs. And I mean, last year we got fortunate because LeBron and AD shot lights out from three. And KCP did. And we ended up, taking 34 threes per game. We're averaging like 28, 29 now. We get into the playoffs and you try to up it up. You try to up that number with guys who aren't used to doing it. And it's very difficult to do. You need guys that have made a career out of taking a high volume number of threes. And if you go and look at the NBA rankings for players on NBA.com and you sort by 3-point attempts, you will see that all of the guys that are shooting over 7-8 threes per game are all shooting them at high clips. They're all good shooters because no coach is going to allow, no general manager is going to allow guys to fire away 7, 8, 9 times a game unless they're really making their shots. We need somebody like that. Now, obviously, getting Ben off of the buyout market is not like getting Steph Curry or Lonzo Ball or Kyle Lowry or somebody who's a proven player. His defense is terrible. He's streaky as heck. This year he's shooting terrible. He's averaging, I think, 25% or something like that from threes versus 40% last year. So, it's the right move for the 15th player on the team at this point in time.
Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what it does, though, it gives until the two-headed monster comes back, it gives the rotation some ebb and flow. I mean, aside from his shooting, we're talking about a player here whose father was a coach, and speaking from experience, guys who get to this level, whose fathers are coaches, are very smart basketball players, and they should be utilized as such. McLemore can play the point. Yes, he's more of a wing player, but he has shown he can play the point. I would trust Ben McLemore now at the point more than Alex Caruso. I mean, he's played the point guard position in the NBA. Alex barely played the point guard position at Texas A&M, and he's barely played it in the NBA. So I think it gives a natural ebb and flow to the rotation until the two-headed monster comes back, at least from a offensive perspective.
Well, it's something that we'll wait and see as far as how that works out, but I'm just glad to have some type of firepower that could possibly be coming off the bench. Jamie, I want your final thoughts on Ben McLemore, but I want to go ahead and preface it with this. He is an individual who's on the very back end of his career, quite possibly, and could be playing for his NBA life, and the fact that he may not get another opportunity. So this is his opportunity to go ahead and shine. And because if he doesn't, he may not get picked up again for next season by any team. So right now, a lot of the eyes are on Ben McLemore to see if he can still produce at a high level in the NBA.
I mean, I think a lot of guys, it comes down to situation. I think LakerTom was astute when he said he had his best season under D'Antoni. D'Antoni, with his rootin' tootin' shooting offense, is going to say, Ben, that was not a bad shot. Great shot, Ben. Great shot. Ben goes out and shoots again. Yeah, Frank, on the other hand, is going to be like, Ben, you blew 3 different defensive assignments on one possession. You're sitting down. And so that's the difference is in the identity of the team. Ben's only 28. He's I guess that's old by NBA standards, but I think that he's probably got another 2 seasons in him. I'm sure some team with
some people will pick him up. I mean, because if you're already writing the bench. You got waived by one team in Sacramento. You got waived by another in Houston. I mean,
who hasn't been
running
picked
out of
up?
chance.
I was going to say, first off, let's
everybody's been picked up.
Let's not accuse Sacramento of making a good decision here. When was the last time Sacramento made a good personnel decision with their roster?
I'm not saying they made a good decision about it. I'm just saying that you can only be waived so many times. You could only be waived.
I don't know about that.
Sure. I mean, I disagree with that too. I understand what you're saying. And that there's a stigma with being waived. But let's be real. Sacramento is not a brain trust. Houston is in the middle of a rebuild. And they want to give other guys a chance to shine, and they're saying, Ben, go get on a team. And I think the more egregious thing would if he had gotten waived and not been picked up. Then I would say, next season, if he'd gotten a roster invite, then he's fighting for his NBA life. He's got a chance to make a couple of clutch baskets on the Los Angeles Lakers in the playoffs. So I think he found a pretty decent situation, all things considered. Does that mean he's going to get a huge payday next season? Probably not. I think he won't make any more than, I'll bet Caruso makes more than him after next season, which, will be interesting.
But he is playing. I believe he is playing for his NBA career going forward.
I mean, at least for a role that he probably thinks he deserves.
His career lasts a long time. Look at Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Dedmon. I mean,
Isaiah Thomas, no.
In the buyout market that you never thought would ever see again.
Look where Isaiah Thomas to get back here.
Isaiah Thomas is right. Isaiah Thomas has worked incredibly hard to make it back to the NBA, and I couldn't be happier for him.
I wish he was on the Lakers, actually.
I don't. I don't see him as having a role on the Lakers. But this is the other thing.
Wait. Does he play the Boston Celtics this year? I don't have the schedule in front of me. Does he play the Celtics?
We'll look it up here in a second. But one last thing on Ben McLemore.
We should talk about the Celtics game and the fact that AD is now scheduled to possibly play in that game.
Well, that's all exciting. But Ben McLemore's not going to get 28 minutes on this team. He's going to get 15, 20 minutes.
He might get 28 minutes in one game if he's hot.
Maybe not even then. I mean, Wes Matthews has been hot, and I don't think he's averaged over 20 minutes in any contest.
Because our guys don't stay hot for the whole game. That's the problem.
Well, also, Frank isn't the coach to leave you in. The coach to leave you in. He sticks with his rotations, and he sticks with those rotations.
To leave you in to close the game if you're really playing great. He's done that.
Yeah, but I've seen Kuz go 4 for 4, can a bunch of threes, make shots, and then at the 7-minute mark in the first quarter, he sits down and he doesn't come in for
eight
years.
on Pascal Siakam tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He really made Siakam work for everything he got.
And that's what'll get Ben McLemore floor time. If he can hold up his end of the bargain on defense and make some shots.
Or we can cover up for him enough and he hits a lot of threes.
Well, again, it is Ben McLemore coming to the Los Angeles Lakers. I look forward to seeing him. I most likely will be saying that he's going to probably start right around the weekend. He's going to start playing for the team. He has to go through health and safety protocols and things of that nature. So I look forward to his arrival for the team, possibly by the weekend. So we'll see what happens there. But guys, it's been a great episode. We've hit the gambit on subjects all over, more than I expected. We jumped the shark more than once as we
opened the doors.
Yeah, I opened the doors. But you know what? I was just so glad to have Sean back, and I know he had a lot to talk about, so I wanted to make sure he went ahead. We jumped the shark more than once on an episode. Let it be this one because the Lakers did win 110-101. But guys, got just a few minutes left so we can hit the hour. Wanted to go ahead and say, you know what? We've got a lot of things in plan and in store for everyone out there at Lakerholics.com. Jamie, I know you've got 5 things in store for people. What do you have in store for them at Lakerholics.com?
Well, I'm actually working on a Ben McLemore, Alex Caruso assist comparison because in more seasons in the NBA, Ben McLemore's highest assist total was 1.7, and Caruso's all of his seasons are higher than that. Not to just as a juxtaposition. I'm excited to see Ben McLemore. 5 great things is coming up, man, and they will be 5 great or at least optimistic things. Thinking that we could get both AD and LeBron back with this team. I'm hopeful that Dre shows up here in the next game or so. It'll be interesting to see how all of that impacts the guys on the roster. And just, now that the roster's full, there's a lot less to talk about. One of the last points of debate was who gets 15. And so that has now been settled.
Who gets cut?
Who gets what?
Who gets cut?
Well, that's not till the summer, man. We got a whole slew of basketball games to play before that.
No. The 7th is the last day. The 7th is the last day.
Tom is constantly
anybody can play in the
Tom is
playoffs.
constantly forwarding through the season so that he can get the trading guys. Like, these NBA playoffs are great, and we won a banner or whatever, but can we start trading people yet? Ooh.
Go ahead, Sean.
Can't your Dudley replace Elmer Fudd in Space Jam 2? Wouldn't that be our best?
Hey, I like the trailer. I'm looking forward to seeing the new
I thought the
Space
trailer
Jam,
was cool.
especially the fact that I can see it from my own home and HBO Max. I'm looking forward to that. But Sean, I know you're working on some great things as well for LakerHolics.com. What you got, my friend?
Yeah, Gerald. Just thank you for making that comment. The trailer did look cool. I'm writing a piece right now. Obviously people are just going to make the comparisons between MJ and LeBron's versions. I mean, it is true. Michael had Newman and he had Bugs Bunny, and LeBron's now recruiting Gandalf and King Kong. So we're just going to see where this goes. But LeBron is the greatest recruiter in NBA history. And now he has the title of being the greatest recruiter in animation history.
Right.
Well, again, he's just a great recruiter, seemingly, because he's been able to go ahead and get almost seemingly everyone that he wants to on the team. And
It's because everybody wants to play with him.
Yeah. Well, not everybody. Kawhi didn't, but that's another
Kawhi
story
didn't.
altogether.
All George didn't.
Yeah, exactly. But
They got what they deserve.
But LakerTom, you've got a lot of great things going on at LakerHolics.com. So let us know. You got to be at least. I know you feel ornery today, extra ornery. That's what the Mrs. LakerTom said. You've got that little fighting spirit out there for you. But how can you apply that to everything that you're doing at LakerHolics.com?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to do that, Gerald. What's really fascinating for me is April 15th. I mean, historically,
it's not taxes, that's for sure.
Historically, April 15th is when we had to pay our taxes. Well, this year, because of COVID, they've moved that to like May 17th.
Yeah.
So, but there's a couple of things that are kind of interesting also about April 15th. Isn't that the first day that the Lakers may be able to have fans in the stands?
Yes, that's right around April 15th.
And there was just an article out that Anthony Davis is possibly scheduled to come back that game. And then you brought up rumors in here today that LeBron James might actually be ready to play on April 15th.
I think it's going to be delayed on that. I
think that sounds like just don't empty the glass so soon, Gerald. I'm trying to fill it up
right now. Go ahead.
Punching a hole in the bottom of the glass. April 15th could turn out to be a grand homecoming day for the Los Angeles Lakers.
If LeBron has,
and I'll leave it at that.
If LeBron has the boot removed on the weekend, would you say there's a good possibility he's planning on coming back on the 15th?
He misses the fans. You don't think that he would love
9 days from now?
He would love to come back on April 15th.
I'm not
Staples Center.
It's going to happen.
I'm still saying
I'm not saying it's
Again,
going to happen.
I'm using that LakerTom reverse psychology there for you. So I'm definitely saying no. Definitely
you cannot
saying
excuse
no.
negativity by claiming reverse psychology.
I'm using that.
That
Remember
is
last
unfair.
episode, you used that reverse psychology. So I'm using that. Definitely saying no.
Yeah,
no.
Absolutely not.
No.
It comes
Listen,
back by
first off, if everything we take that was said on the podcast today is gospel truth, that the orthopedic surgeon who happened to see LeBron getting some work in the great state of New York thinks he's roughly 2 weeks away, that would actually be about 5 days after the 15th, unfortunately. Much closer to the 22nd. We have a game on the 18th or the 19th, I want to say. So that would put us, that'd be a day or two before we play Dallas.
LeBron. We want
well, yeah, they want him, but I'd rather he be ready for the playoffs.
I'm originally sticking. I think it's going to be a month. I think the 19th or the 21st, 22nd against the Mavs. I'm with you.
I'm sticking with my thing, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is going to come out of retirement on the 15th.
Oh my God!
Wait. No, why would you want Kareem? Don't you want?
This is jump off the ship.
That's the Fonzie moment, right?
All right.
The only player. Oh no, wait. The only player LakerTom should hope is coming out of retirement is Byron Scott because he can shoot the three.
So I'll tell you what.
He's a ghost already.
In honor of Space Jam and Big Bugs Bunny, I'm going to say that's all, folks. Actually, that's Porky Pig there. That's all, folks. You know what? It is the Lakers 110-101 over the Toronto Raptors. Great performances today from Marc Gasol, plan C, plan D, whatever you say. He did do 13 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 block shots. THT led the game with 17 points. Overall, it was a good victory. Excellent first half for the team. I'm hoping for good things to continue this week, but we will see as there's a finals rematch in store for us on Thursday. It's the Miami Heat in Miami. Hopefully the Lakers will not be partying too much, like Sean is traveling the clubs in Toronto. So hopefully we will go ahead and see a Laker win, or at least a great game from the Lakers once again, like they did today. So hopefully we will go ahead. It's going to be a win. Well, we'll see.
No superstars on Miami.
I'm sorry. Is Jimmy Butler playing?
Yeah.
Then it's going to be a loss.
It's a win.
All right. Well,
nobody did scare us.
That's all, folks. Once
again, I'm muting
Lakers.
myself, Gerald. I'm muting myself. How about that?
It's the Lakers Fast Break. We will be back on Thursday for the game, the post-game show against Miami. We truly appreciate everybody watching and listening as we jump the shark several times on today's podcast. But if you have any questions for us, at Lakers Fast Break, at LakerTom, or of course, Lakerholics.com. Be part of the conversation today. Want to thank, as always, our friends and also a very patient friends after listening to this at the Hoopheads Podcast Network. Be a part of all the great, awesome, and truly terrific shows that they have at hoopheadspod.com. Of course, may also support their sponsors and everything that you can do to help them out at hoopheadspod.com. Well, again, we will be back after a momentous episode today. I also have other conversations in store. Draft time is on the way. The championship game is done. Congratulations to Baylor. Now we're looking at the NBA draft.
What happened to Gonzaga?
They lost to Baylor. Where have you been?
Really?
Oh, well,
yes. I'm surprised you're so ornery.
You didn't watch it last night?
I didn't watch it, but I love the score and I love the aftermath.
Okay,
they choked the game away just like they should have.
But the NBA
gods got even.
But the NBA
gods got even.
But the NBA draft. Okay. Basketball gods got even. Yes, we get it. But the NBA draft is coming up, so I'm going to be having conversations upcoming with Rafael Barlow and Stone Hansen. They're coming back on the show here in the coming days as well. But we're looking forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we will go ahead and see you and hear from you this Thursday after the game in Miami, right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Thank you, Albert, for the thumbs up, and everybody, we'll see you on Thursday.